So we just wanted to take a few minutes today to give everyone an update of where Zion Oil and Gas stands, where we're going in October, since a lot has gone on. And this is a good time for an update because the last month or so, there's been a lot of planning and changes and aspects looking forward. So where are we at?
Well, currently, there has been only one change, but the overall plan has not changed. We're still sidetracking and trying to reach a lateral target that will allow us to do stimulations into multiple zones of the potential target zone. The only change that's been made is moving from MJ1 to MJ02. And I think we'll get into that a little bit later in the call. But that's been the only significant change from the original plan. And the main reason for that is MJ2 gives us a better operational ability to succeed simply because we can start in 9 5/8 inch casing with bigger tools and do a two-stage drilling operation as opposed to trying to do an extremely long lateral with a 6-inch drill bit or a single stage drilling operation out of 7-inch casing from MJ01. So that's the main difference and the main reason why we chose to go off of MJ02. We can access the same target zone that has been identified. And so operationally, it's a little bit safer and gives us a better chance at operational success.
And maybe explain to people what that means, going from drilling within MJ01 to MJ02, where it is, it's on the same pad site, correct? And it's
It
only,
is correct.
and
So
so,
MJ02 wellbore is only 7.5 meters away on surface from MJ01. Now at depth, as to where we're going, there's about a 300-meter difference between where they're at. And at our target area where we're going to start lateraling off into, MJ1 and MJ2 are parallel to each other. So they're almost in the exact same location, but they're buried by MJ2 is about 300 meters to the east of where MJ1 is. So from an operational standpoint, we could use either well to get to where we need to go. And in drilling, if you encounter any unforeseen circumstance, for example, collapsing lithology, shales, whatever the case might be, something that you need to case in order to hold back. Maybe you got a lost circulation zone, and the only way you can get away from it is if you case. And if you encounter something like that, then you have to slim your hole down to continue drilling. So if we come in off of MJ1, where we're going into some shale areas where we have seen some lost circulation, if we did encounter a situation that forced us to stop drilling and we had to run casing at that point, to keep going, we would have to be inside of 4.5 inch, and I don't have completion tools to do that at that depth and at that length. Slim hole tools, they're hard to get to, they're unreliable. So we basically were trying to hit a home run, and we would have had pretty good chance at success, but there's zero mitigating things that I can do in case something goes wrong. So from MJ2, we can take out half of the drilling operation before we start directly into the lateral. And so it just makes sense that if something happens, we've got a backup plan and we can still reach target if we encounter a situation that we're not ready for.
has there been a lot of logistical difficulties and realities in this process since we last went out with an update in July? And in this planning and in this process, you've had the war, you've had different realities changing in the Middle East. What kind of situation are you seeing as far as your plan?
Yeah, it is complicated because oil and gas industry is in a mini boom. So contractors, they're contracted through this year, contracted next year. And what we're trying to do here is it's a full-on drilling campaign. Just get a 2,700 meter head start, which is to our advantage. But when you're talking about subcontractors and services that are required for the operation that we're undertaking, it's essentially a full-scale drilling operation. So we have to have directional drilling. We have to have full mud engineering. We have to have wireline services. We have to have liner hangers, tubular running services, cementing. Uh, that went on MJ1, MJ2 during the original drilling of the well is taking place again on this operation. So when you're dealing with multiple subcontractors, Israel in uncertain times, there's still a lot of volatility in there. The length of a project, we're trying to get it as condensed as possible. So lining up providers to meet our timeline and a limited scope operation. Difficult. It's not saying it's impossible because we're doing it. It is difficult. They've got hanging fruit readily available to them just because of the market right now.
So that's definitely an ongoing prayer point for all of our supporters, I would
Right.
say.
Just as an example, as to why some companies don't want to come, it's not that they don't want to come and do our work. When you have multiple job opportunities, let me use wireline as an example. It's just an easy example. There's need wireline for 4 different operations, but they're not back-to-back operations, and they're small. Does a company want to send me their equipment for 3 or 4 months, and only get paid operational charges um, for small jobs? They'll get paid their standby, which is to our detriment. You know, to pay for a unit that can be out there for 4 months and we only need it for 4 days because we can't send it back and forth logistically. The companies are saying, well, there's not a lot of money for me to be made when I got plenty of work I can take those units to. They're only working 2 days a week, 8 days in a month, and you're going to pay me 1 day out of the month. So I'm getting some of that. Have too much work, squeeze you in, or we got lower hanging fruit or more profitable jobs close by that doesn't tie up our equipment like it does when we come to Israel. Because as you in Israel, it's logistically difficult. It takes a long time to get stuff out. Require bonds, which companies don't like to put up. They not quick to get their money back when equipment leaves. So they weighing all of these factors, and they've got lower hanging fruit. They're taking that. But luckily, we do have some very loyal suppliers to us who have been with Rob and I for a long time, who will do our work out of loyalty, than out of how much money they're going to put in their pocket. And we're working around it. It's part of the reason why you can put all of this stuff on paper. A short period of time, I can get engineering done. Lee can identify the target zones. We can make an operational plan. And think, okay, we can get out the door in 6 weeks. It takes a lot more because there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle that have to come together, and they all have to commit to being there in a certain time frame. And that's what we're working through right now. So we've got a lot of it hammered down, contractual in place. Yeah, looking at mobilizing the rig crew January 3rd, which is the earliest that we can get them in because of visas. We've got some
That's
rigging.
visas from the state of Israel, correct?
Right.
Correct. And let me just interject real quick. Dynamics of the regulatory market in Israel through the ministries, et cetera. There's been a significant process with workers coming into country, and one of the that we had faced in the past was the minimum wage of the specialized workers coming into the country was extremely. There's no company that could operate actually within that band. It was based upon the high tech sector for executives, and that's what they use to benchmark the salaries. So when you're bringing specialized labor in, for 6-figure incomes for half a year's worth of work, it does not make sense. We did work hand in hand with the ministries to kind of show a portion that needs to come in country that's specialized, and then the indigenous labor force that we hire, they end up retooling their visas and shifted gears to a different type of visa. So it was a fairly long process to get this done, but in the end, it's a long-term reward for anybody that that oil and gas services or drilling or exploration in country. So it's unfortunate that it has drug on, but we have passed that hurdle. They've passed the legislation on it, which is really going to benefit us in the end. Kind of elaborate on what Monty was saying with some of the services, wireline, etc. These are normally we're used to call out services in the North American market where, 48 hours we can call out a service, use it for the night, the day, send it back the following day, and you cut your costs. Where we have to import everything into country, and there's a price tag involved with that, with standby where you have an idle asset on location, etc. So, look at the vertical integration component for us, Zion Oil and Gas. There's some components that we are actively procuring for our long-term plan country, and these are going to be potentially wireline, cementing that we have in-house, and we're not waiting months and months to capture these services from abroad. And the other logistical challenges that we haven't had to really go through in the past is there's certain countries that don't play well with Israel now. And we have some of our services were provided across the Med. Unfortunately, Turkey and Israel have a bit of a stopgap between the two of them. They're not trading, not doing any services. For all intents and purposes, we're locked out of that market. So you have to shift gears into the North African market or the European market, the Baltic countries. So you have added hurdles and added logistics, added transportation in order to get these items and procure these items to get in country.
And it actually goes one step further. It's an indirect conflict that do with I have some guys that I was going to bring in on the drilling side and also on some generator maintenance and upgrades. But a lot of their business is in Middle Eastern countries. And if they come through Israel, they risk having their visas revoked in some of these Middle Eastern countries that they do a lot of their work in. So that simply a stamp in the passport, they declined to bid on the work. So there's some indirect things we wouldn't anticipate happening that have happened. But coming together, this is not doom and gloom, but this is more for those who are listening to understand that, yes, we can put the plans in place. Yes, we can identify what needs to be done and who needs to do the work, but it can't come together in 6 weeks or 8 weeks or, on expedited timeline. And those are just some of the reasons as to why. So not only that, because it's a drilling campaign, we do have a permit process through Israel. We've submitted those plans back in September, which was 5 weeks after we decided to do the work. Then we were hit with some holidays, getting 16 subcommittees all together at the same time as required. That still hasn't come together. We're after the Shabbat holiday in the middle of October that people will start coming back to the office, and I can fly over there and meet with everybody, and we can get the final stamp that we're good to go. So bureaucracy, the war, the challenges, and lining up contractors all in the same window, it requires some lead time and some extensive planning. But it's all coming together, and we're locked and loaded. Everybody, the entire drilling crew is ready to start coming in January 3rd to get started, and we should be drilling, sometime in March. So, well, why does that take so long? We got regulatory inspections on the rig because this is a drilling campaign. We got to get the rig certified. We have some upgrades that need to take place in order to accommodate. It's a complex drilling operation that I won't get into. So we got some upgrades that we're going to do to the rig, and then we've got to move it. It's just a 7-meter slide over, but you got to rig down. You got to take everything apart and slide it and build it back up and get started. So that'll take us all probably January and February to get through all of that stuff, clean up MJ1, get it plugged properly the way the MOE wants us to leave it, and then we'll be rock and roll. once we do get started with the drilling, barring any unfortunate or unforeseen circumstances, that we should move pretty quick, and into well testing before school gets out.
And so, I mean, really what I is, from an analogy, like the ancient Israelites who go into the land and they see the giants, and there were several like, oh my gosh, we can't go in there. We're not like that. We see the giants, we see the reality, and we're moving in. I mean, with that, basically, shareholders have been fantastic to, continue to, and everything. Now, has done in Israel onshore the lateral drilling?
No, and let me just kind of put a more paint on the picture here with this is, if you just, why would we be doing this? Why would we go through the headaches? You can have 1,000 whys when it comes to it. And the fact is that it was easy. This would have been done years and years and years ago. And I think one of the biggest things is we follow good industry practice, but the most important thing is that we follow faith, and we, in the Lord's word with what we do. One of the things that why we're to this exercise of this long lateral is, are very positive on the hydrocarbons that were sent in. They were as anticipated or better for the light condensate, oil and gas. And one of the things is the formation that we've identified that has the highest prospectivity is a pretty decent sized container, I guess you can say, for just the easiest terms. And, we have the ability to exploit this area, and it lines up with a lot of the geological targets that we had gone through in MJ1 and MJ2. These were verified areas, and now we're going through this exercise to get to where we're at now to be able to get, potential for the well. It is a road less traveled. It has not been done onshore in Israel. And, I have the right supporters behind the organization, our shareholders. And I think just having the ability to continue to push our faith forward is what's allowing us to overcome a lot of these obstacles that most people would say, man, that's just way too much. There's a lot of, navigating and a lot of doing this. But if you just stick to what the vision is with the organization, and we go through, we're gonna prosper on this project. And I'm happy with the team that we have in place, and just, the that we receive. And it is a very difficult environment to work. And if you just take a snapshot of the last 4 or 5 years, it's just tremendous support that's got us through that. Global pandemics, go down the list, right? We've been through it. And I think with our patience, our perseverance, it has allowed us to push to that we're at. And, we're as an organization, and once we're finished this campaign, I think everybody can kind of reap the rewards for the labors and the patience that everybody's put into this, right?
Well, and I know, I mean, just as we talk, we're all so eager to get things rolling constantly, everything else. But we're often reminded, hey, this is God's timing. This isn't our timing. And I know from the organization that everyone is doing their utmost at all times. I came from a shareholder on the outside who maybe heard since July, what's they doing anything? I mean, we're pushing every day. I see that, and it just reminds me, mentioned that coming into the land and seeing giants, but the Israelites wandered, it was a few days journey just to walk in, but they wandered for 40 years. And that was not but that was what God's timing was, his perfect timing. And, that's what I hear from our shareholders. A lot of them say, hey, we're investing or hold our investment or whatever it is. And they say, we know it's God's perfect timing, and that's it. And so, that's from my perspective. And I really appreciate, on behalf of all the shareholders, you two, especially your relationships, willing to put a lot of that on the line and push it in order to get this project done. and to have at the right time, production, oil and gas for Israel onshore, which is absolutely important. So I want to thank you all, you both.
I think the most important thing to take away with this, Andrew, and I know that Monty has 100% of my backing on it. If it wasn't for the support of our shareholders and the messages that we receive from them, you do go through very low points, and they're who carry us forward through this. They're the ones that continue to put a little bit of wind in our sails when the sails get a little bit limp, right? So, 100% shareholder support. We've been able to get to where we're at, and just on their side, that it's pretty amazing to see some doors open up that you think that are locked end up opening up. So, absolute hats off to our shareholders for their continued support, and it really does help us operationally, because like I said, we have a lot of challenges, and you can tire at times, but it's just the reinvigoration we get from hearing positive messages from our supporters, right? Monty, I think you may have something to add to that.
We are doing everything we can to make this operation successful, and God willing, the payoff this time around, and feel it. And Rob said it best. You keep us going, and it's just such a blessing to have such a loyal shareholder base, and yeah, I mean, we're very grateful for it.
Well, and I think that that's the biggest thing you said. We're doing everything we can, but beyond that, God's carrying it beyond what we can, and that's what we're seeing. And that's where we see the miracles. It's just like, wow, he just paved a way here that we did not expect. And I've seen that numerous times in the time I've been here. Well, gentlemen, I thank you for your time. You were very generous today with the IR department and everything else. We appreciate you, and we just we're praying for you, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you, shareholders.